International Water Futures Forum.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in this session where we're going to explore one of the most strategic and forward-looking challenges that water utilities are facing today. It's how we design tariffs that are fair, financially viable, and fit for the future. My name is Guillermo Perez. I'm the head of Aqualia's International Customer Management Department. And I have the pleasure of moderating this panel, Panel 4, Tariff Structures in Transitions. As we know, water tariff sits at the crossroad of public policy, social equity, financial sustainability, and service quality. As mentioned in the previous panel, across the world, we see increasing pressure on water utilities because of the urban growth, climate stress, and rising costs. And at the same time, strong expectations that water remains accessible and affordable for all. Balancing these forces is not easy, and that's why this discussion is so important today. The tariff policy is much more than a technical formula. It shapes how we fund infrastructure, how we protect the vulnerables, and how we build trust between utilities, operators, and the citizens. In this panel, we have policymakers, regulators, and operators. And the goal of this panel is not only to compare the tariff models internationally, but to understand how global principles are translated into local realities. Allow me to introduce our distinguished panelists today. We have Georgi Koberidze, which is the Deputy Minister of Infrastructure of Georgia. He plays a central role in shaping Georgia's national infrastructure agenda. We have Irakli Kadagishvili, the chairperson of the Committee on Regional Policy and Self-Government. Mr. Kadagishvili brings the deep legislative and institutional insight to today's panel. We have Gibi Sanikidze, Commissioner of GENERC. He represents the regulatory perspective. We also have Giga Nadiradze, the Technical Director of GWP. And last but not least, Mr. Jesus Maza, the President of DACWAS. DACWAS is the Spanish Association of Water Supply and Sanitation Management Entities. He's going to bring an international comparative lens to this discussion. Well, thank you all for joining us. We have 90 minutes together to explore four major topics that shape the future of the water services. Let me begin with the tariff models and the international practice. To set the stage, it's important to understand how different countries structure their tariffs, and what lessons can be drawn from this experience. Let me start by asking Mr. Maza to maybe set the context define the context of Spain and the role of your organization in this context, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Guillermo. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you to GBP and Aqualia to organize this forum and to allow us to participate in this forum. For me, it's very interesting because, in Spain, we used to make some forum like this, but often we are the same speaker telling about the same items to the same people. Now, here in this forum, I know that you merge people coming from the water operators, of course, but also people from the municipality, people from the government. It's interesting because we need to break our comfort circle and to tell the story of water sector to other groups. It's very important that, for example, citizen, government, municipalities, they have to understand very well we need, what are our problems, and what are the real value of water. For them, congratulations for this organization to Aqualia and GVP, and of course for me it's a pleasure to participate in this meeting. But I'm not very sure, Guillermo, what about my role here, because I have to change my presentation several times, because you make different questions to me yesterday during the travel, and especially yesterday, my guy Rocío Santiago explained you very well, better than I do, the model tariff in Spain. I have prepared to explain you this model, but she did yesterday very well. Then what I want to do, if you don't mind, I will explain the context in Spain, what is the real situation now in our country. What is the role of our association? Because I think it's very interesting to the contribution of our association to the water sector, because we are a group of 300 companies that participated in this association, and we used to have many debates about the main problem of the water sector. And the third time, to talk about the context, about the deficits of investment in Spain, what is the problem that we are facing now. Okay, let me start. I hope this operates. Okay. Today, DACWAS, our association, brings about 85% of the water operators. Spain manages water in a context of extreme climate change, with increasing water pressure and a demand for resilience that had led us to a critical moment, such as the 2024 DANA or the major blackout in 2025. Today, practically 100% of the Spanish population receive high-quality supply and sanitation services, which we constantly evaluate to guarantee excellence. Let me give you some topics about the water sector in Spain. As Rocío told yesterday and killed my presentation, urban water in Spain is a municipality competence. That is the municipality that are responsible for providing the service to citizens. However, in each case, the municipalities may choose to provide the service directly, do it through a municipality company, in which private company can also participate, or manage it through a private company to which they grant a concession for a series of years. At present, 35% of population is supplied by public entity, 33% by private company, 22% by joint venture public and private, and then the remaining 10% by municipality service. We do not have a regulatory body at the national level. This is very important because it's a big difference between Georgia and Spain, and of course also between Portugal, that the guy of regulatory body in Portugal was here yesterday with a very interesting conversation. At DACWAS level, Spanish Urban Water Association, a total of 330 entities participate in our association. Public operators, private and mixed water service managers, engineering, construction and supplier companies, public entity related to the world of water, and also technology and research center. One of the greatest strengths of our association, and one of the greatest strengths of our sector, is the coincidence of all these actors, who also collaborate through 19 working groups that permanently analyze the main aspects that affect to the world of water, which make us a reference at the national level. I think that the government of Spain and the different governments in Spain, in Spain we have one country and 70 different countries inside, with different government, different parliament. We have a very big to explain, very big, difficult to explain. But at all level, they are looking at when they have any problem with water sector. We have get that we are our opinion is always be in context to make any kind of decision. Also, DAC was participate at European level in different associations that work in European level in Brussels, because as I tell you in the next slide, we are very affected by the European decision. Well, in my last presentation, I have all these points, but Rocío killed my presentation, and Guillermo also, and then I have to move to other only 1 or 2 points of this presentation. It doesn't work. Okay, thank you. Spain is part of the European Union and is therefore subject to all sustainability and urban water quality regulation issues from Brussels. Consequently, the urban water sector is obligated to carry out a series of investments to adapt the current system to European requirements. In theory, these high regulatory demands should be covered by the price of water, as this would provide a structural solution compared to temporary ones based on subsidies or occasional taxes. However, the current tariff in Spain is far below the European average and is currently insufficient to cover the investment needs arising from both European regulation and infrastructure renewal. Our main real estate development in the 60s and in the 50s and the 60s of the last century. As a result, distribution infrastructure are over 50, 60, 70 years old and need deep renovation. The situation generates an annual investment deficit of 4,400 billion euros. Although operators have doubled their investment to 2,400 billion euros annually, public administration have not kept race. This results in a worrying aging infrastructure. Only 0.54% of the distribution network and a mere of 0.12% at the sewerage network are renewed each year. What the ideal is 2%. With this percentage, you know, the distribution network it will be for sanitation about 1,000 years. Is 1,000 years, the distribution network from sanitation will be renewed. It's amazing. It's impossible to work in this condition. In this context, public-private partnership offer great possibility to cover the deficit provided that contracting system are agile, transparent, and effective. Let me tell you something about only one more thing, Guillermo, about the actual situation in Spain with the public services. As you know, at this moment, we are witnessing a situation in Spain in which some essential public services, rail transport, have collapsed due to the lack of maintenance of their infrastructure. And the country is facing a very critical situation. For this reason, from the urban water sector, we are calling the attention of the authority to the importance of maintaining our infrastructure, especially those of storage and distribution network. There will be a very big crisis if we have collapsed our infrastructure and make our sector in a critical situation. For that, we are calling to the administration, to the public administration, for this situation. Maybe in the debate, or maybe in the next question, I will tell you what about what are we asking to the government to solve this problem, and also what we have to solve the problem to affordability in Spain. We have a lot of measures to be possible that nobody in Spain will be without water for a problem with economy. Okay, thank you very much, Guillermo.
Thank you, Mr. Maza. My next question is to Mr. Nadiratze. From your perspective, what tariff models are most commonly applied today, and which ones have proven most effective in ensuring financial sustainability of the water sector?
Let me greet and welcome you. Firstly, let me thank everyone participating in organizing as well as discussion of the topics. And before getting to the tariff structure and model related discussion, let me briefly note when we speak about tariffs, tariffs have two key components. One that is responsible for how much or what is the level of the to cover the return and tariff methodology. There, for the coverage of the expenses, this is related to operational maintenance costs, plus the existing capital of the company and additional investment projects that should be implemented 3-year regulation period during that regulation period. And as another the component related to tariffs is how should company receive this income, what billing should be used for different categories of customers, and this is where the tariff structure is responsible for. I will try to present with my first slide information about the structure, current one in Georgia for various categories of customers, and just to use this remote. According to the present tariff in Georgia, based on the full recovery principles and enabling company to conduct operational activities, which is necessary for maintenance of the systems, has been set for several categories of customers. We mainly have household and non-household customers, and within the household there are different types of customers, those who consume and they have the meters, and another non-metered ones. And on this slide, information about the household tariff structure that has been set for cubic meters and respective 50 tetris per cubic meter. For non-metered customers, there is a person-specific, which means that according to the registration basis, the number of individuals registered in a household per person, a certain fee is set. And it should be mentioned also that in the model there is this cross-subsidy operating, which is for household and between household and non-household customers. And talking about the cross-subsidy non-household, higher tariff than that for household customers. It is of critical importance to get for the company to get the sum total income, which is necessary for investments, for operations, activities, for enhancing services, although there are certain challenges in this respect as to the receiving of this income.
And the gross subsidy is 17.6, which means that it is 17 times more than the tariff for households, and that means actually that approximately, and just to go to details, like the largest 1,500 enterprise, they actually have this part and they have it in their revenues. This is about the cross subsidies that poses challenges to the companies. As to the non-metered customers, and we said that we have now tariffs calculated per person, and majority are registered as 0 or 1 customer. So, and of course we have like registered members of the household and factual, right? And they don't have an obligation of being registered. So the public registry shares information with us, and behind one registered customer, usually we have like maybe 10 people who use that water. And according to Geostar data, and one household usually consists of 3.3 people. And therefore, approximately 350,000 people in Tbilisi use water and sewage services, but they are beyond the system. Now, since the fixed costs for the company usually is bigger than the variable. So despite that, these costs, these minimal fixed costs that shall ensure stability of the system and being under pressure, of pipelines, so that system is always ready, so that somebody opens the taps, that the water is there. So 50% of metered, they don't receive the relevant contribution, meaning that they may be using less than 1 cubic meter of water. So it is the obstacle, but at the same time it is an opportunity, because we have a discussion with the Commission. We are working on different models based on best practices, based on the reality and the context in our countries, so that we overcome these problems and which will support our investment policy. As to the question about the international practices, I will try to briefly say that there are several methods for calculating the tariff. One of them is calculation per cubic meter. Each method has its advantages and disadvantages. This is why we need to analyze the context in the country. We need to know what are the challenges before the system, etc. And then we can, select the model or the method for tariff calculation. Then we also have some fixed costs. The fixed cost has a very big disadvantage, because it doesn't give the incentive to people to effectively use water, right? So, like we have now tariff per person, right? It doesn't matter how much water I use, less or more, there is no incentive for these households at all. Yeah, and yet, they may be willing to consume less and therefore pay less. But this system doesn't allow for it. And then there are the block tariffs. According to the practice, this approach is used when we have water deficit, so that the consumption of water is reduced. And the reasons are not only the water deficit, but others too. We actually have these blocks of tariffs per usage, right, per volume used. And of course, here it is incentive to rationally, effectively use water, etc. And if the first block is defined so that it meets the basic needs, then the tariff will be accessible for households with low income. And we can say that low-income households will be able to have access to water resource for relevant needs. And another method is binomial, where we can use fixed and nominal and variable tariffs. And of course, it's the tariffs architecture, and the Commission has vast experience in it. We've had discussions with the Commission, and I think this experience and all of these discussions will support development of the sector.
Of course, tariffs don't operate by themselves. Their success often depends on the context, no? In which they're applied. Cities are growing fast, as mentioned in previous panels, and their waste and their water systems face very different realities. My next question is to Mr. Sanikidze. It's how do tariff systems adapt to different realities, especially in rapidly growing cities, where the infrastructure investment needs are high?
Hello, I would like to welcome you all and thank you to organizers for organizing this forum. Thank you for inviting me here. It is a very important forum. And as to your question, of course, in the urban context, there can be differences in terms of tariff regulations, meaning that when we have the growing cities with growing population, then the consumption of water increases, and it is problematic, especially if water resources are the deficit. And of course, growing consumption means that the infrastructure should catch up, right? And it shall also broaden and expand, etc., etc. And of course, capital costs will increase. We need to attract investments, especially if we're talking about the tariff reflecting investments. Then, of course, it means that the tariff will grow and it will worsen the index of water resource accessibility. If we take entire country, we need to know the zones where the GWP works. It's like Tbilisi and Rustavi. These are quickly growing cities, as well as Batumi, which is a resort seaside town. We have challenges there too with regard to increased consumption, infrastructural projects, etc. If we talk about construction of the new infrastructure, then of course it is in response to the challenge of the growing city, right? And we need the bigger investments, and if we can make some forecast of what that growth will be, for instance in Gonio or in Tbilisi, etc., then we can calculate those investments, of course. But we need to do such estimates, and of course we need to talk about the cities attractive for tourists, right? We also need to take into consideration the issue of these so-called abandoned or closed houses, right? Where people do not live, etc. So there are different types of problems. First of all, it is the problem of inactive customers, and in conditions of increased capital costs, it is a burden on the household tariff, and therefore it may affect the quality of service, and it is the problem in terms of providing incentives to people to use water effectively and prudently. Well, of course, including introduction of the fixed component would be quite effective. Locked houses, inactive customers is an issue, and therefore they wouldn't pay for water if they don't use it. And of course, it would be only fair if they compensate for the fixed component of the tariff, because the system works and the water supply is there. We also need to take into consideration other factors. If the index for the service quality worsens, then we can use the progressive block tariffs, where the first basic tariff provides, actually resolves the problem of water accessibility, and then the next blocks will be more expensive, and they actually provide for sort of securing risks, and it is also an incentive for people to be more effective customer, for more responsible customer, if you will. Here we could use different mechanisms to reduce losses, because people will have an incentive of using water with more responsibly, and therefore, like they would fix their taps, etc., etc. And of course, we need to attract investments. And another very important mechanism would be installing meters. Share of metered customers in Tbilisi is 51%. It's quite a big challenge, and in Batumi, almost 98% of the Batumi population is metered. So for Tbilisi, it's a challenge. There are places when the number of metered population is 76%, etc. So we need to introduce the mechanism that will provide incentives to people to use water responsibly and prudently.
Sanikice. As we consider how tariff systems respond to different urban realities and growing infrastructure demands, service continuity becomes an essential part of the discussion. No? This brings us to a closely related strategic question that I would like to pose to Mr. Gadarisvili, which is in Georgia. What strategic objectives does the transition of municipal water supply systems to a 24/7 continuous service model serve? And how realistic is its full implementation considering the existing resource constraints?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for this question. Hello again. Indeed, it is a very important conference. Georgia, as you know, is recognized as the country with rich with water resources, but supplying water to our people is a challenge that still remains a challenge for us after years and years. Together with our partners, we have significant progress, some accomplishments, and it's not only about large cities. This policy, of course, is about regions too, and it's very important that the state has the vision, and of course, it is very important for providing water, providing villages and rural areas with water, although we are in the middle of the road, and that is because sort of the this inheritance, so to say, or the heritage that we inherited from the Soviet times. Now, we know about investments in Georgia, in municipalities. They increase all the time to create or to fine-tune or repair water supply systems in the regions, in rural areas. And of course, we talk here about effective use of water, responsible use of water, which is a very big issue, actually. And we try to take it into consideration in our regions. Here I would allocate several challenges in this regard, because the projects are large scale, really. It is in focus of the government, and there are projects funded by foreign companies. But one of the reasons for challenges usually is the quality performance of the water supply project itself. That was one of the challenges that we faced. And, it would create some problems, and it would affect, the ability, so to say, or affordability of the tariffs. Like, for instance, water is supplied to people, but because the water is not of a high quality, then big part of people in this or that municipality would refuse to pay the tariff. So it is a problem, it is a challenge, And it doesn't depend only on the tariff, but it depends on the project and the quality of water supplied to people. We are working on these measures so that these issues are basically eliminated. Another issue is, and actually I will speak about this issue from the perspective of municipalities, because it is related to rural areas, it is related to specifics of our community, and I myself was the governor of one of the regions, so this topic is quite well known to me. So, of course, the problem when it is about the regulating the price for potable water and for water for melioration, just to use for plants, for veggies, etc. The water that could be used in farms, etc. So, when we talk about water supply and the tariffs, we need to provide for so-called technical water for melioration, purposes, because usually people use potable water for technical reasons, for farms, etc. And of course it is a challenge. We think about it, we work on that, and there are measures being taken, etc. Of course it is linked to melioration, and in the direction of melioration, the state ensures big investments. There are facilities that are being renovated or there are newly constructed, and there are channels made that are pulled to the farms, etc. So the farms know how to use that water. So these are the key challenges. At the same time, it is very important that currently municipalities are users and not operators of water. So, and we create some systems for rural areas, and it can be the supply that is not of very high quality. It can be used as potable water, but still it's not of the quality where people would be agreeable to pay tariff for that water. So we have these challenges that we need to overcome, and of course the regional structures, municipalities, central government, which basically is an implementer of such project. The coordination between these three different entities is absolutely crucial, because we know that every region has its own specific features, but together with challenges, I would also say that we're quite optimistic, because this optimism is based on figures and it is based on projects that are being implemented or planned. And of course, when we deal with such large-scale projects, of course, they may not be implemented without any challenges or problems, etc. One of the challenges, as we said, is, metered population. I live in the capital city. We pay per person, but actually we frankly and sincerely pay for the real number of people living in that household. So, of course, we think that we are on the road of development. We need more investments, not only financial investments, but knowledge investments too, the expertise and the practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Karagishvili. Ensuring continuous high-quality service inevitably raises questions about how tariff can remain fair, inclusive, and socially acceptable, while supporting the investments needed to reach such service standards. With this in mind, let's go to our next topic: the social equity and affordability. As we know, regulators must walk a fine line between economic and social imperatives. Many countries address this through equity-oriented tariff mechanisms, but their implementation is often the real challenge here. This question goes to Mr. Sanikidze again. How do regulators strike a balance between ensuring utilities recover their costs and protecting consumers who may struggle to pay?
Well, of course, the main task of the regulator is to ensure financial stability of licensees by establishing the tariff that would ensure relevant revenues for the licensed companies. At the same time, we need to consider affordability of such tariffs and the potential or the capacity or possibility of the population to pay those tariffs. So if we're talking about these such indices, etc., we of course have to provide accessibility at the micro level when we're talking about protection of vulnerable customers. As you know, there are UN recommendations about the water consumption tariffs, or the payment for the water consumption should not exceed 3% of the household income. So at the macro level, this index can be provided by two mechanisms. One is the progressive block tariffs, and the first block shall be about the price that will be affordable for all. And here we are talking about the minimum consumption of water. It's just for hygiene, food, and bathing, say. And the next will be the block that will be higher than the basic block, right? There is the mechanism of cross-subsidy that ensures mechanisms where the household tariff is less and it is subsidized on account of commercial customers. But of course, we've got to take into consideration the negative effects of the cross-subsidy, and as Giga said, on example of GVP, we can say that the cross-subsidy level is quite high, and gradually we've got to achieve the level where the burden that is borne currently by the commercial users is lessened. Now, if we manage to keep this index at the macro level, it doesn't mean that we would do the same for the vulnerable population. So there is a mechanism actually in the hands of the Regulatory Commission and the government, and the vision of the Commission may be to establish the tariff, like that can be called the social tariff for vulnerable population, and only vulnerable population would pay it. But the state may use mechanisms of direct subsidies, and some vulnerable people would be subsidized. Currently, we are using these mechanisms, and of course, we can bring examples of other countries, like for instance in Britain, they do have these social tariffs, and of course everything is done under strict supervision of the Commission. There are hybrid models and there are targeted subsidies, like in Brazil, for instance, and there are some instances where, in conditions of social tariffs, there can be some progressive blocks, and the basic one would be free, right? And for instance, such a mechanism exists in South Africa. At the macro level, the access is ensured, actually, and average consumption by the household does not exceed 0.5%. Now, I said that there is a mechanism of direct subsidies used by the government for vulnerable customers. These people are usually subsidized, and this is quite a big resource allocated by the country for the most unprotected people. And their cost should not exceed 100 lari. Now, of course, vulnerable people may not be even using that much water. However, the state protects as much as it can consumers like that. Well, of course, we've got to mention the following, that if we gradually go to removing or lifting this cross-subsidy burden, then the index can worsen, and of course then the adequate tariff policy should be used in response to that.
I would like to go back to Mr. Mata to explore or to know his perspective, Spanish perspective, on what mechanisms have proven effective in protecting low-income consumers while guaranteeing the equal access to water services.
Okay, thank you. Well, in Spain, as Rocío told us yesterday, tariffs depend on the municipality, no? Then also social measures depend also of the municipality. I think that Spain is a good match country in social equity. The water bill represents now only 0.84% of the whole household budget, well below the 3% that is recommended by the United Nations. 86% of the population lives in municipality with social action mechanisms, reaching 100% coverage in metropolitan areas. So solidarity funds and tariff discount, actually 5.7% of users receive social protection directly from the municipalities. There is a close collaboration between municipalities and operators, and then they decide what people need in any case. This kind of measure ensuring that no one is left without supply due to inability to pay, but it is the responsibility of public administration, especially municipality, to identify beneficiaries through agile mechanisms in order to fulfill this human right. I think that the model, the water sector model in Spain, with this close cooperation between the municipality and operator, allow us to have a very close contact with the beneficiaries. And then this, for us, is the best way to cover the needs of the people that have a problem to pay the bill of water. In Spain, I think that nobody have no access to the water because a problem to economic.
Thank you, Mr. Mata. Well, as we consider these mechanisms, it's also important to remain cautious about the over-reliance on cross-subsidies, no? which can unintentionally distort the tariff signals and weaken long-term sustainability. Supporting vulnerable consumers is essential, but it must be done in a way that keeps utilities financially healthy. No? We hear repeatedly that targeted support rather than generalized low tariffs tends to be more effective, but well, the implementation of this is quite a challenge usually. My next question goes to Mr. Nadiradze. How can protection mechanisms like subsidies, discounts, or targeted support be integrated into tariff systems without weakening long-term financial health of the utilities?
Thank you very much for your question. Usually, the direct importance and responsibility for tariff setup is not to have specific activities for affordability, but the tariff structure is a contributor to setting up a fee tariff in a way so as to factor in the interest of low-income groups to enable their affordability, the accessibility through affordability, and the social portion of the tariff structure. When we have to assess by all means to use the assessment criteria to see how affordable the tariff is in the country and Tbilisi, to take Tbilisi specifically. The 0.31% affordability index in Tbilisi, which is not higher than 0.5, as has been mentioned by colleague, and it is 0.31% in Tbilisi, while international organizations have set a maximum threshold of 3% of the fee. Although it is extremely sort of affordable, highly affordable water in Tbilisi, still there may be very low income, and this 0.31 is average, and it may be way higher for extremely vulnerable. And also to note that in Georgia and in Tbilisi, as has been mentioned by the colleague, there are some measures to protect. In the healthcare system, there is a mechanism that is used to identify low-income individuals, and they are offered targeted subsidies, not only for the potable water, but also for natural gas and electricity, along with other social packages. When we are speaking about the tariff structure and how can be contribute, main contributor is the increasing the block tariff, where first block is comprised of the minimum necessary for a household to have available the volume that is necessary for them to consume. And second, the fixed fee simplifies the direct subsidy mechanism in our case. When we have been discussing with respective government authorities about the implementation and identification of the number, the sort of subsidy amount, or it's hard to sort of find the subsidy for if there is a fixed sort of a fee. Government would also know how much to subsidize. Above that, if a block rate or tariff, we tell the customers that the fixed one will be paid by us, which is a guarantee that they will be receiving the potable water, and the company respectively will provide, and whatever is directed to their immediate consumption, according to the block tariff, they would be paying for that. So this is a mechanism that can be used for the socially vulnerable to increase the accessibility of water and affordability, and wherever necessary, direct subsidy mechanism to be simplified, to be implemented by the government.
Thank you, Mr. Nadiradze. As we reflect on how social protection mechanisms can support vulnerable groups without undermining the financial sustainability, it's also essential to consider the structural realities that shape service delivery, especially outside major urban centers. No? This brings us to a crucial aspect of equity, the state of regional infrastructure. Here I would like to go back to Mr. Kadagishvili to ask him what are the main infrastructural challenges in Georgia's regions in ensuring the population access to high quality and uninterrupted drinking water.
Thank you very much. We have already spoken about the challenges, and let me note again that when it comes to potable water supply, quality potable water supply, especially in regions, we face specific challenges that have been conditioned back earlier, errors and mistakes in designs, and now they are being addressed, these errors. And when water quality is undue, of course, the payment policy is not effective either. And naturally, water supply, if it's not guaranteed, the financial the provision remains a problem. And the United Water Supply Company that is operating in regions of Georgia is committed to ensuring that all the gaps that may be in place in this direction to be eliminated. Also, it should be noted that the tariff policy itself in the regions differs from that in the capital city, and there the social needs, challenges are factored in, those related to regional population, and the respective tariff policy is implemented in this respect. Although it should be noted that in the near future, the need will arise in municipalities as well to have tariff, the rate to be increased. Perhaps this need and necessity may arise, of course, if we would like to have stable, sustainable, quality water supply to the regions. And also, as noted, for regions, amelioration systems, smooth functioning is also important. Let me also add that just for 2026 current year, over 80 million lari has been allocated for various infrastructure projects implementation, which concern for the amelioration and sewerage systems. And also there are plans, and the study phase already over, the construction of major water reservoirs such as Ilto, such as Lakve. Those should provide to supply for farms and farmers with irrigation water, which is very important, considering that oftentimes they are resorting to unfavorable practice when potable water used to be used for agricultural or other technical purposes. So, in this direction, I would say that these activities will enable us to have water supply to be high quality 24/7 and effective. And secondly, amelioration works would enable technical or irrigation water supply, will balance sort of a feeling and will take care of unpurposeful use of potable water.
It's really what we hear consistently is that ensuring equity and strengthening regional infrastructure depends not only on financial and social instruments, but also on having accurate and timely information about how water is produced, delivered, and consumed. No? This brings us to our next topic: the role of digitalization, smart monitoring, and modern metering systems in shaping more efficient, transparent, and sustainable water services. Let's turn into a crucial aspect of this transformation, the water accounting. Drinking water losses are the role of accounting in ensuring that it's efficient and rational use. Mr. Koberice, Georgia has made significant progress in modernizing its water sector and including improvements in monitoring and data systems. From your perspective, how can accurate water accounting from production to delivery help reduce drinking water losses and promote more efficient and rational use of water?
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to thank the organizers very much, Aqualia and Georgia Water and Power, for this highly significant and interesting event. Organizing this highly important event. I would like to speak about today Infrastructure Ministry water supply company activities, as well as the results the company has in water supply and about the challenges related to the losses of potable water and the metering for rational use of water. So, to speak about the company activities, the Georgia United Water Supply Company, it operates Tbilisi, Rustavi, Mtskheta, Ajara region. So, other than these regions, it operates in all other areas. 9 regional offices, 59 service centers, and currently it employs up to 4,000 employees. The coverage area is 48 cities, 27 towns, and over 400 villages, 417,600. The number of subscribers, the customers, legal entities, 30,000 above, 30,000, 387,000 individuals, and total number of beneficiaries over 960,000. The activities is sourcing potable water, standardization and delivery to customers, as well as management of assets and infrastructure, and maintenance, treatment structures operation, controlling the potable water quality, which is one of the key priorities for us, and also highly important direction. The company has the new projects, the design, planning and implementation. In general, the company activities can be divided into 2 key parts, such as operation, and in this direction, to give an idea, the huge assets are involved and huge infrastructure management is involved. About 17,000 kilometer long water supply and sewage system we are operating on a daily basis. Also, hundreds of reservoirs, pumping stations are part of this infrastructure, which the company is managing and operating on a daily basis, 24/7 basis. And as regards the parallel to the main activities involving the potable water supply to citizens, one of the significant targets of the Infrastructure Ministry is to have the company reach the targets of the break-even, operational break-even, meaning the company to be able, with their main activity revenues, to cover operational costs fully, to break even. This is very difficult to achieve, and the company we will get to this result gradually. To have such major Tbilisi, Kutaisi, Gori, Tel Aviv operation-wise, to make sure that there is a profit making achieved, and also important to have adequate and fair tariff in place. And the company, jointly with the government, there's a decision to apply to regulatory agency with the application on tariff to set the tariff for operation region and to the cities that fall under the company for the household as well as non-household sector. And we have mentioned Georgia. Fortunately, has rich water resources, over 26,000 rivers overall, which in a way means that we have to sort of use these resources in an unsound manner, and the rational use sourcing of water resources to ensure that the water containing layers underground, the reservoirs from which we source water, to be maintained, for it to be fit for long-term sustainable use. Also important is rational use of the potable water. We all know very well, especially those in this hall, to water as a natural resource, and for it to be transformed into the product of that of the potable water, the difficult path that it goes through. It may sound easy, but you would all agree that water as a natural resource is absolutely different, and the product that is fit for household and potable purposes is absolutely different, and it requires major efforts, energy, professional resources, and also as highly important, colossal expenditures for operations daily basis, as well as investments related expenditures. This slide shows 2012 to date. Annual projects volume and value, which clearly shows that the water supply for the government is one of the significant priorities. We had received quite a difficult heritage, the legacy, and it was mentioned by the colleague, and I agree fully, the infrastructure and the systems that we had in 12, 13, 14, 15, and gradually, and later on I will speak more about the results and outcomes. The systems were extremely depreciated, and several times a day, during a day there were several times the incidents for the sewage as well as water supply sections, and for many present here, they are familiar with 2013, 14, 12. Such a major city, which is under our operational area, such as Kutaisi, used to have water supply once every 3 days, every third day. And there were areas or the districts where the systems, infrastructure wasn't developed in the 21st century. You would agree it's not even a discomfort or just inconvenience. It is just impossible not to have quality potable water. It wasn't about. It was just about the water supply, potable water, and 48 out of 48 cities within our area, in 75% of them, we have quite major infrastructure projects. As a result of the projects, 24/7 water supply, and in 35%, 17 cities, we are conducting currently active works, and this year, 26-27, we will conclude those construction works, and in all 48 cities, as a result, we will have high quality, modern standards infrastructure, and continuous and the 24/7 water supply. And overall, total investment, as you can see, is over 3 billion, 3.5 billion, and if 34 million lari projects in 2012, but 20 times more was implemented in last year. 682 million investments, just 2025, for just 2025. As regards them, government team should be we should thank them. Also, we should thank our donor organizations whose engagement would make it very hard for us to implement the mentioned projects. And our main donors are ADB, World Bank, KfW, French Development Agency, European Investment Bank, and I would like to thank them all very much for partnership and for cooperation. As regards individual metering for reducing losses, we all agree that it plays crucial role and main role. 76% currently of the customers, the household sector, has individual meters. As for remaining 34%, we will continue active works, and in all projects we have individual metering component of our customers. As for losses, we can divide them into two parts: technical and commercial losses. Technical losses, of course, involve the operation normative losses, although when it comes to technical losses, we have vivid and prominent progress given the significant investment projects, and technical losses are usually due to outdated infrastructure, also the underground, the leakages, and we have good results, and we'll have even more when we complete these projects. Although this metering sort of for technical the recording those is important, and their management daily, and we are working daily in this direction. As regards the commercial losses, all projects, you would agree, is usually prepared based on certain estimations, and if 250, 300 per person per day norm, with the customers where no individual metering is in place. This is a private settlement where there are the private houses. As a result of the chronometric observation, we have obtained the specific figures of consumption, such as 3,000, 3,500, 3,800 liter per capita, per person, which of course is way higher than 250 or 300. And as has been mentioned by gentlemen, yes, there are cases when it's used for irrigation by certain residents, but believe me, even if targeted use for the irrigation, that thousands, sort of the commercial losses in the region cannot be matched still, which we have in the cities and settlements. It is just that this water is used very wrong, sort of, and as a result, commercial colossal losses, which translates into very high financial losses at for one component, even electricity, which means that this volume of electricity is just wasted. And of course, this affects and compromises other conscientious customers, and the projects have their sort of estimations of individuals, customers, and the volumes. And when we see such the irrational use, of course, this affects the conscientious customers, especially during the hot periods of the summer when there is a lack of water anyway. And as for losses, let me also note that in the cities where we had the depreciated and outdated infrastructure, to draw comparison and analysis is chronometric. Also, we did quite extensively. 85% potable water losses we had, meaning that sourced water, between sourced water and the realized water and supplied water, you would agree that this is extremely high indicator. 80%. We sourced 1,000 liters and are supplying 200 liters. Other than that, technical and commercial losses. So the difference. And in addition to the company will continue active work in the future for the water mains, for the sourcing points, also the main networks, equipping to be able to control 24/7 on the network, as well as the main network, also the internal distribution networks, the losses. Also, we are working very actively to detect and identify the customers who don't have permits. And last year, end of the year, we announced this campaign. And this year we have started active work in this direction. We won't allow anyone to, without agreeing and without receiving the technical condition, to link or connect to the internal network or the main, which of course damages our infrastructure and gives rise to very high losses, commercial losses. Just January this year, 32 such cases were detected by the company's inspection and monitoring function, and there were the vacation periods and holidays, and this is the number of the arbitrary and permitless, and this is the we will be very strict here, and we will need some time, but one way or another we will get to the outcome to make sure that commercial and technical losses will be minimized. As regards planned projects, as we can have seen, major projects have been implemented over the past 13 years. Overall, more than 3.5 billion laris already invested in the water supply sector by the government. And also, I have already mentioned and will reiterate that in all 48 cities by 2027, we have all projects completed that are currently in the process, and we have 24-hour water supply as well as infrastructure, modern infrastructure in all cities and towns. As for planned projects, this is already in process, not just planned, and in certain direction we are already moved to the design works. Or the 100 villages, 400 million euro investment will be implemented in water supply, and it won't be sewage in villages and towns, because certain villages and hundreds of such villages who have no access to central water supply systems, although and they have the spring water and other like boreholes and underground water. We would like to set priorities given the volume of the residents. Over 100 villages identified where design works are underway, and during the upcoming 10 years we have 10-year program developed in the villages. As I have mentioned, this is over 150,000 beneficiaries will have the for 24/7 water supply, and also
And as to cities and valleys, according to the government decision, we will construct the wastewater treatment facilities and systems. So it is so in 2 years, basically, all these projects will be completed by then, and we will start in 28 cities. Like the first one will be 12 cities where we will start construction of all these systems and plants. So we will resolve that problem too. And of course, we need the special systems to create it. Drainage systems created in order for the waste waters to be treated accordingly, etc. And this is briefly what I could tell you now in this format. Thank you for attention.
I think we still have time for 2 more questions. I would like to ask a similar question to Mr. Sanikidze, but under the point of view of our regulator. No? How can tariff structures and regulatory instruments be used to promote water loss reduction and the rational use of drinking water?
Well, of course, in conditions of permanently increased use of water, rational use of water is absolutely crucial, and the Commission shall try to create mechanisms which will facilitate or promote optimized use of water, because we need to really reduce negligent use and consumption of water. We need to reduce commercial and other water losses. And there are 3 mechanisms for achieving this goal. First of all, it's the tariff policy. The tariff policy is a very strong method. We talked a lot about these mechanisms, and it's been said many times that actually we need to and of course the fixed component does not promote actually this saving of water or more prudent use of water. So of course we need to use this different maybe approaches. In Georgia currently we have the so-called flat tariff, which means that any used cubic meter of water costs the same. I need to mention and say that we need to introduce block tariffs, the basic block tariff, and every next stage shall be, higher than the tariff for the basic block, etc. And that will actually facilitate the prudent and more, responsible use of water. We definitely have to mention here the process of installing meters, because without meters we will not be able to effectively use either of those mechanisms. Now, definitely we need to look even further, and that is about creating the smart networks, the time differentiated tariffs with the removal of peak burden, so peak use, etc. And we've got to save the investment money. Therefore, in future, we need to think about creating mechanisms allowing the, say, day and night tariffs, and that will also be another incentive for rational use of water resources. Well, Georgia has a lot of resort zones and cities, and in some seasons, water consumption drastically increases, so we need solutions for that, like relevant pricing for seasons. And during such high or peak seasons, we need to have tariffs that would support saving of the water resources. Together with the tariff policy, we need to work on reducing losses, and therefore we need special mechanisms, and that would be sort of an incentive for the companies to work on reduction of losses. Of course, the tariff policy is one of the most important ones. Today, the tariff policy that is utilized has these incentives for regulated enterprises to reduce losses, etc. There are normative losses, and of course we want to even improve such indicators, even those indicators, and of course it affects the customers, and of course we need to do everything to sort of lift the burden on tariffs as well. So we need these incentives, such mechanisms. They shall be defined by the Commission. And another important mechanism would be creating these smart networks, so that we can identify leakages in a timely manner and therefore fix such leakages, thus reduce losses. Well, we have very good experience with regard to GWP, and we had some campaigns where we were talking about saving water, and such steps are always encouraged by the government or commission that are made by the companies. And of course such campaigns, awareness campaigns, they work, and although Georgia is rich with water resources, we still need to take care of this very precious resource. So we need to work on increasing awareness, and every step made in this regard, and each lari paid for such campaigns by the Commission will be always very prudent.
Well, to conclude our thematic journey, let's look at the bigger picture here and see how tariff policy influences long-term sector sustainability and urban development. Beyond operational and regulatory improvements, Mr. Nadiradze, what impact does tariff policy have on urban development and on the quality of water services?
Thank you for this question. We can just show this, this very simple equation regarding this tariff and correlation between the tariff and the development and growth. Let's move on to the next slide. And of course, the service and increasing this service is directly linked to investments to the tariff levels and the tariffs to the accessibility limits. Now, let's look at how these mechanisms work in our country, and let's take a specific example. In the previous panel, Nino Latsabidze said that in 2021, in the water supply system, they had a problem, and after the company had implemented the investment projects, and of course it led to certain results, and the city does not face the same problems as 5 years ago, and it doesn't face this problem of 24 hours water supply. So how did it work? So when the water supply problem arose, then the company had been tasked with submitting the plan to the commission. The plan was submitted, and then after agreeing on that plan, the works have started on implementing that plan, right? And of course it affected the service. And when we talk about the investment plans, we need to mention that the Commission uses the best practices for developing their methodologies, and they do have such a methodology, and they do assess the needs, the level of priority of investments, its reflection in the tariffs, etc. So there is one paragraph which says that if this amount of the investment is so significant that it would significantly affect the tariff, then the Commission can reject such an offer or, distribute it in time. So if the investment would affect the tariff, then an accessibility and affordability index wouldn't be met, then what to do? Then, of course, we can talk about co-participation or co-investment. So, of course, there is correlation between all the components. Service, investments, tariffs are directly related to each other. And, of course, it shall be all balanced, meaning the consumer interests or the customer interests are preserved. And if there is the problem of affordability, then the state shall come in as the funder too, so that people have access to potable water or this the sewage, etc., etc. So I think that water supply services are really accessible, and we do have space for investment without activating some additional mechanisms.
As we are reaching the end of the panel, I would like to send one final question, not addressed to anyone in particular, but I would like to know in one key message, because we don't have much time, what should policy makers remember when reforming tariff structure?
From the side of the regulator, I would say that one of the key messages is that we do understand very well the importance of the reform, and we do understand the timeliness of the reform. So in times when we need to make some decisions, it is absolutely necessary for all stakeholders to be relevantly engaged. We need to agree on our visions and views, and the Georgian government has to be involved. And of course, tariff has a great social importance, although we do understand, all of us, that it is necessary to timely implement the reforms, and every late decision will lead us to even more difficult and complex decisions. So we are facing the reality where the licensees will file their applications with us, etc. We have, as to the modernization of the tariff structure, it's good that we started speaking about it openly in this forum, and we have to continue, and we need to be in intensive cooperation, and communication with the Georgian government so that we take correct and timely decisions.
There.
Once again, just to summarize, it's clear that having water resources is absolutely necessary, but not the only factor, and it's not sufficient. And the financial investments implemented by the government is necessary, but not sufficient on its own in order to provide people with the good water supply services, right? So the separate components are not sufficient to achieve that. We need to have these components plus the tariff policy, and professionals were discussing this issue here. So I think that unity, all of that, plus the coordination between all the stakeholders is important, like coordination between regulator, government, municipalities, citizens' involvement, their awareness. Unity of all these factors will probably help us in achieving the goal that we set for us. And I think this conference is dedicated exactly to that. So I would like to thank all stakeholders for participation here, and thank you for inviting the Parliament to this forum too, that you gave us the floor to present our political platform.
Well, I think we still have time, maybe 2 minutes, if somebody from the audience wants to ask a question to any of our panelists. Okay, well, thank you very much for your contributions and your engagement.
International Water Futures Forum.